I'm Rob Skinner, and this is the Rob Skinner Podcast. Today I'm talking with Mari Sawamura. Mari was born in 1998 in Japan to Japanese nationals and ministers. She grew up there until 10 and then went to live in China. She became a Christian, graduated high school, and then went to college at Boston University. She graduated and now works in the Boston church as the face of that church's social media program. She's a major driver in the church's Instagram outreach program that has over 1.6 million views and is bringing 200 seekers to church every week throughout the Boston metropolitan area. Listen as I ask her about her journey to the States and her work for God's kingdom. All this and more on the Rob Skinner Podcast. Welcome back to the Rob Skinner Podcast. My goal is to inspire you to live a no regrets life, make this life count, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. I hope you're having a great beginning to February of 2025. I'm so happy. I mean, this last couple of weeks have just been great. I'm so excited. Yesterday, a young woman, 13, almost 14, got baptized into Christ. She's a child who's raised in the church here, and her parents, Ed and Margot Diego, raised her and just got baptized. It was so encouraging just to see her testimony, see the transformation that the gospel's had in her life. My wife came home on Saturday from counting the cost with her and just said she's ready to go. She's really solid. So that was such a huge boost for our church. And it was great to see that. And then a week or two before that, we had a woman who has had some really serious health challenges. She almost died. She had major liver failure. Her liver is just kind of just gone. She's had some lifestyle challenges. And so she also was raised in the church, kingdom kid, drifted away. And then in her mid-30s, her parents been praying for her. When she almost died, she really made her think about God. And she wanted to study the Bible. And so her brother and her parents began studying the Bible with her. And they've been looking for a liver replacement. She's on the list to get a new liver. But she said, no, before my next surgery, I got to get baptized because I could die on the operating table. And I don't want that to happen. I need to get saved first. And so they studied the Bible with her. Her brother lives out on the East Coast, and they did it online. It's just so encouraging. And she was so sick. I mean, just, very, very jaundiced, but she was right there, took her testimony, and she got baptized a couple weeks ago. And so it was so inspiring to everyone who was there just to see the power of the gospel. And this is real life. I mean, people, it matters. The decisions we make here, you just are reminded of that when people are close to death. You go, hey, this is what it's all about. I mean, it's all about just getting into the kingdom of God. And so she's doing well, and I just heard yesterday they found another liver for her, and so she's up in Phoenix right now waiting to get that implanted there. And so really, really happy about that. So we're off to a good start here. I'm really happy about just seeing God work. And so want to just thank you again for listening to the Rob Skinner Podcast. I really appreciate people like you taking the time to listen, because I know you're a kingdom lover. You love God's kingdom. You want to see it expand. You want to see it grow. You want to grow personally. And if you feel like you're benefiting from the program, I'd just like to ask you to support it with a gift, because your support enables me to multiply disciples, leaders, and churches, and inspire others to do the same through this podcast. All you need to do is simply go to the show notes, and there's a link there to just click on to support the program. So thank you so much. Mari, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
It is great. This is a real special interview to talk to you, because we knew each other way back in Japan in the 90s. And Pam and I were living there for 10 years, from 1993 to 2003. And you grew up with our kids, which is, really, really special. So it's great to talk to you. Can you tell me a little bit about your time in Japan, what you're doing there?
Yeah, I was born in Tokyo. My parents were on staff in the Tokyo church. And so I grew up there until I was 10. And then my mom got a job in China. And so my whole family moved there. And I did all of middle school and high school in Guangzhou, China.
Wow.
But I still consider like Tokyo as my home.
Okay, so your mom got a job there. That's what's so interesting about your family because your mom like spoke about 14 languages completely fluently. I remember she would just switch between English and then Cantonese and then she'd go back to Japanese talking to her husband,
Yeah.
Michitaka, and it's just like that's incredible. Okay, so
hmm
can you tell me a little bit about your parents, how they got together? I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah. My mom, her little brother became a disciple first while she was attending UPenn. And she went to church to go check it out to make sure like her little brother wasn't like in any kind of weird church group. And she ended up studying the Bible and getting baptized. And she's half Japanese, but she was also born in Hong Kong. And so um, somebody just, one of the sisters, I think it was Erica Kim, called my mom and was like, "You're from Japan, you should go back and help your people become Christians." And so my mom always says if somebody from Hong Kong called her first, and she would have gone to Hong Kong. But and then my dad grew up in Japan. He's like, my mom was very like international, like has grown up very like all over the place, but my dad is very Japanese, and he didn't know really anything about Christianity until Steve Schaff met him in a bookstore in Tokyo. And I think he was the first guy in the singles to get baptized in the Tokyo church planting. And yeah, he started from like completely no faith, and then he read the book of John, and I think in a month became a Christian. And then they ended up meeting in the Tokyo church, got married, and then had me and my brother.
Okay, so they got married, what, 93, early 90s?
Oh, I don't really
Oh,
know.
you're supposed to know those things, Mari.
I just know I was born in 98 and my brother was born in 95. So yeah,
O-
somewhere before that.
Okay. And just your grandmother, okay, she's a
Mhm.
sweetheart. I saw your Instagram post. She's also bilingual. I mean, she's an amazing woman. Could you tell me a little bit about her background?
Yeah, my grandma, she's Japanese, but like ended up in Hong Kong somehow and had four kids, and then um yeah, kind of raised those four kids on her own. She learned Cantonese, um and like moved her four kids around to Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, like sent her kids to college in the US. So she's a very strong, feisty woman, very fashionable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Always has been. So
I know I was talking to you about this before the interview, but she's such an elegant lady. I mean, just,
mhm.
just truly international globetrotter. I was always so impressed with her. And she hasn't changed a bit. I mean, she hasn't aged a bit in the past 30
No, she
years.
hasn't.
She's must be
Mhm.
sleeping in a cryogenic chamber or something. It's really awesome. But so you grew up really in a very international, obviously in a very international family. I mean, it was real common for you
Yeah.
to travel. So can you talk about
hmm
what it was like? I mean, to go to China at the age of 10. I mean, that's a big step. That's a huge
hmm
cultural shift.
Yeah, it was a really big culture shock. My brother and I did not have the best attitude about it, for sure. Um, China is what it is now, but in 2008 when we moved there, it was still very much in its developing phase. So it was crazy. Like, yeah, by the time I left for college to the States, where I lived in Guangzhou was a completely different place than, when we moved there. Um, But you know, Rob, in Tokyo, everyone's very polite, everything's very orderly and
Hmm.
clean. Everyone's very quiet. But we moved to China and everybody was yelling, like we felt like it was like a little bit dirty or stinky a little bit when we first moved there. Like kids would be peeing in the malls and stuff, and we were like,
No,
what happened? Um, but I ended up really enjoying it there. And yeah, I'm really grateful for even all the disciples there and everything I got to learn there. But it was a huge culture shock. Like, yeah, like we would go on vacation for like 2 weeks, come back, and the huge park next to our house like turned into a highway. Or it was just like very fast paced. China was developing super fast when we were there.
that's amazing. Okay, so you grew up in your home speaking Japanese, obviously. What happened when you went to China? Like, what were you doing language wise?
Yeah, so I went to Japanese kindergarten and elementary school, but when I was going into the third grade, I switched to an international school because my mom, after coming out of the ministry, studied to become a school counselor in an international school. And so the job that she got in China was at the American International School there. So my brother and I got to go there um, for free. But we still learned Mandarin in school as a language, like a foreign language. But my dad, who always like kind of had some trouble with learning languages, like actually became completely fluent in Mandarin while we were there. His job, like he found a job that he did completely like fully in Mandarin, and he actually ended up like preaching and doing all his Bible studies and stuff in Mandarin. So um, yeah, my brother and I weren't forced to be completely fluent like he was because we went to international school. But yeah, my parents eventually ended up leading the churches, the house churches in Guangzhou, and my dad did all of it in Mandarin. So that
S-
was kind of a plot twist.
Okay, so in Guangzhou, they speak Mandarin, or it's really, I was looking on the map there, it's really close to Hong Kong.
Yeah, a lot of people speak Cantonese as well, but it's still primarily Mandarin. But because it's so close to Hong Kong, like I would say a big percentage of people in Guangzhou speak Cantonese.
Okay, so your mom went in there and she's like a fish back in water because she can speak Cantonese.
Yeah, and then she had taken some Mandarin classes in high school when she was in Singapore, so she picked it up really quickly.
Okay, so she's got Japanese, English, Cantonese, and Mandarin down.
Hmm.
Okay. I'm just continually amazed, and that's amazing about your dad. Okay, so how
Yeah.
about your Mandarin? How's your Chinese?
It's really bad now. I could speak it. I would say like I was at an intermediate level when I was there, but now I don't even use it. So my Japanese is still very fluent because I speak it with my family, but my Mandarin is not looking good.
Right, right. Well, that explains why you don't have an accent when you speak English, because you
Hmm.
grew up in international schools.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. It's really funny. I was talking to Kelsey Hahn. Kelsey was part of our church during COVID
Oh,
for
yeah.
a year or two, which was amazing. He and his wife were just a total gift from God. But they
Hmm.
would tell me about this guy named Mitch in in the church in Japan or in China, and I'm like, who's Mitch? Like,
That's
I'm
so
I'm just
funny.
thinking this white guy named Mitch. Like
Yeah.
what's Mitch doing in China? And he's like, oh no, that's his real name is Michitaka Sawamura. I'm like, what? That you call him? I mean, just total mind blower right there. But
Yeah.
apparently that was his nickname, his English
Yes.
nickname.
Yeah. To make it a little easier on people. But yeah, when we first moved to Guangzhou, my brother and I started going to Kelsey's house church. And then by the time I left in 2016, it was like a huge church. Like, I don't even know how many house churches there were at that point, but it started from one. And I think by the time I left, there must have been like 30, 40 house churches. So
That's amazing. That must have been what a cool thing to grow up with.
mhm.
I mean, what'd you learn from that kind of a situation and growing up in that kind of a house church environment?
I think as a teenager, I felt very lonely because I'm grateful my parents would send me to the States in the summer for teen camps and things like that so that I could see other teen disciples. But otherwise in China, I was maybe like a 4-year-old and then me and my brother and then like a 20-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
um, and so I didn't have a lot of other people my age, but I think it ended up being for the better because um, yeah, I was surrounded by either like Americans or wherever they're from, like who decided to go to China for a 1-year challenge, or these Chinese disciples who were literally like giving up everything and risking, their reputation, their lives to be Christian. So I think I got to be around a lot of great influences for sure.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever run into any discrimination or prejudice being Japanese, Japanese national in the heart of China?
Luckily, not too much personally, but we did find it funny when we first moved there and we would turn on the TV. All the villains in the TV shows were from Japan.
Oh my gosh. I mean, there is a lot of animosity against Japanese in Asia. I mean, whether it's in Korea or in China, going back to
Yeah.
World War II and pre-World War II. So that must have been a little interesting. It's kind of like when you
Yeah,
turn
now
on,
I feel like
go
it's
ahead.
definitely died down, but yeah, for sure.
It's kind of like when you turn on TV in the States. I mean, if you've got a villain, he's probably 45, he's bald, he's from somewhere, either Chechnya or Russia. You've got the
Yeah,
standard.
that's so true. That's so true.
Okay. Well, that's great. Okay, so then how'd you get to the States? You're living in Boston now. What happened there?
So I basically I became a disciple my senior year of high school,
Okay.
and I just dreamed to be part of a big campus ministry, a healthy one and a thriving one, because I had gone, my whole years in China, the only, person in my age group. So my brother had already gone to the States for college. He was in Seattle. And I just asked him, like, where are your friends who are disciples in the States? And he just kind of gave me a list of different places. And I visited Boston and I really liked it, and applied to Boston University, got in, and decided to go there.
Okay, that's great. Your parents must be super happy for you.
Yes, they're very happy, very proud that
Okay, so you tell me about your conversion there in Guangzhou. Like how was that? Who studied the Bible with you? Was it a traumatic experience or was it a very smooth experience?
I would say it was pretty smooth. The first time I tried to study the Bible, I was like in the 7th grade or something. I asked somebody to study with me, and then she told me that I would have to read the Bible on my own if we, wanted to keep going. And I said, never mind.
Right.
And then I didn't study again until maybe my junior year of high school. Um, I was very, very prideful at first. I kind of felt like I had everything going for me, because I didn't have people in my age group at church, and it was also all in Mandarin. And yeah, like I just remember I would be 12 sitting in financial peace classes with like 27-year-olds. Um, so all of my best friends were in my school. I played sports. Like I just really enjoyed like all my friendships in school. and it was a good time for me. So even though I knew I would eventually want to become a Christian, I kind of felt like, oh, maybe later on. And I don't really need God right now. I'm like all set. I'm pretty happy and content. But yeah, so when um, this sister kept like, so we would have, my parents would have midweek and church and Bible talk, all those events in our apartment. And I would go to church on Sundays, but not midweek and Bible talk. But this sister would keep knocking on my door, like in my room, keep bothering me, asking me to study the Bible. And I said no a few times until I said yes, as if I was doing her a favor. So I was very prideful. And we would get together every week or so. I wasn't really into it, but then my the summer before my senior year of high school, I went on a Hope Youth Corps. And even though I had gone to teen camps and things like that in the States, I never really felt like I really belonged, because I was like this random girl that showed up, like who lived in China. But on that youth corps, I really felt for the first time like, oh, these teenagers like are actually living out the Bible and even serving or like getting in touch with Jesus' heart, and that softened my heart a lot. And I felt like I really made great friends and people really cared about me that were disciples. And one of the women leading that youth corps just told me straight up that I was prideful and had a quiet time with me on the rich young ruler. And she said, replace the word rich with prideful, and this is you. And that really humble. I honestly felt very loved, like, oh, somebody was like willing to talk to me straight up like that. And so I got back to China. I told some of the sisters there I wanted to study again. And from there, I think it was maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. And I studied the Bible with an amazing sister. Her name was Rock, ROC. She was a secretary at my American school, and she was amazing. And then Asia Chin, her sisters are named China Chin and Shiana Chin. They're all named after places in Asia. But she studied the Bible with me too. I'm really grateful for them. And I got baptized my first day of senior year of high school. I went to school after a very spiritual summer and felt like, wow, this is really worldly. I can't wait to go home and get baptized. So, yeah.
So you got baptized like right at the beginning of your senior year of high school.
Yeah.
How awesome is that? That's great. Okay. So there you are. You're kind of like the only kid who's that age, but you make it to college. You go to BU. What was the experience like coming to the States, going to school in the States as a foreigner?
Honestly, Boston is such a college city. Like there are so many people from all over. So it wasn't too hard for me to blend in. But also I was so used to traveling and, like I would hail cabs by myself when I was 11 in China. So moving here, I felt like it was pretty easy to navigate. And my campus ministers from that time always laugh about it and talk about how like I was completely unfazed moving from a different part of the world, because even like in Japan, like, 5-year-olds take the bus by themselves. So they laugh about how I was kind of strange that, I didn't
I
really need
know.
a lot of hand holding.
It is a completely different standard. I remember when David started first grade, he was going to a school. We were living near the church, and he would take a multiple trains over an hour, go through Shinjuku, and then he'd switch at Takadanobaba. I mean, these are massive train stations with
Wow,
millions of
that's
people
great.
going through there. We did it. We'd go with him for the first 2 weeks to kind of get him used to it. But then rest of the year, here's this little 6-year-old kid just, wearing his cap and going
Yeah.
to school. And that was normal. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I can see that. Okay.
Mhm.
So what was your experience like in college at BU?
I loved it. I I just loved being part of the campus ministry. I would sit in class and wish that I was in a Bible study or like I just loved going to devos and making the friends that I made in college. So yeah, it just felt kind of like a dream going from like no peers around me to all these people that were fighting the good fight with me in college. So
Hmm.
it was a great time.
Okay, so you're born in 98, so you're 26, is that right? Going to be
Yeah.
27 this year. What got you interested in social media?
Well, I've always been a little bit creative. My mom is a painter, and I feel like my brother and I got the DNA from there. But I've always loved making things or being a little bit creative. And when I started interning for the campus ministry, I felt like that was something that I can do to help out. But then during COVID, when, everything shut down, I kind of was the person that, was there, like, the young person on staff that knows how to use Instagram. So that's kind of how it got a little bit more serious. But yeah, social media is kind of funny because there's not like a specific set of gifts that you need to be good at it. It's just kind of like, you know, you just kind of know how to use it. You're on it a lot. So I think just, being a younger person on staff, and also, I guess in college, no, this is a really big detail that I forgot. In college, I studied communications and advertising. So I had taken some graphic design classes, or I had a little bit of a background with um, like knowing how to market things. So that definitely has something to do with it too. But
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Let me back up a little bit. So you went through college. What have you done since you graduated? You must have graduated right during COVID or something.
Yeah. So I graduated in 2019, and then I went straight into the ministry. And so I've been working in campus ministry for the last like 5 or 6 years. And then I do social media for the church kind of on the side.
Okay, so you're doing ministry primarily, and then social media is like
Mhm.
a little side gig or something like that in the church.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Do you do it also for businesses? Is also no,
Mm-mm.
just for the church?
No. Yes, yeah.
Okay, so are you primarily social media, or is it like ministry first, and then if you have time, you can squeeze in getting a couple reels in or something?
My main passion is in ministry, but I also feel like I'm good at social media. So I'd be on Stuart Maines laughs at me because I'll be biking to my next Bible study making a reel for the church Instagram. Like it just kind of
On your bike.
yeah. So whenever people ask me for advice about social media, I'm just kind of like I just like do it as I
I
go.
see. Okay.
you know, I have some free time between Bible studies and I just scour my camera roll and find something to post.
Mm,
It's kind of
that's
how
awesome.
I do.
Kind of reminds me of there's that example of like a professor of like a fine arts professor had a class, and he said, okay, you're going to be judged two ways. Half of you are going to be judged by making the perfect clay pot, and then you make the perfect pot and you can get an A, or make 100 pots and then you'll be judged based on that. And it turned out that the ones who had to make the 100 pots ended up doing
Oh,
much better simply because of the repetition, even though they may not have been as gifted initially.
yeah.
Just focus on
I
the
definitely see
volume
that.
or the quantity. So what you're saying is
Yeah.
just you don't feel like you have any particular aptitude. I mean, you've got some general artistic background, some communications, but just the interest is there. The repetition makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just kind of like I'm trying to post every day and whatever I find, or yeah, I basically just go to every church meeting with my phone, like ready to come out when things happen, and I just record things and then post them. Basically,
Okay. But at some point, there had to have been a light that went on for somebody, either
Mhm.
yourself or for Stuart or for someone around you said, hey, that's really good. You know, we need to do this more. Like, was there like a particular night or event or post that you go, hey, this is going somewhere?
For a while, it was just like, okay, we just need to start posting. But then there was one video that blew up, but it was only after like 2 years of posting consistently. Um, One video finally got, what, like 40,000 views or something. And we were like, okay, I think we just have to make more videos like these. And from then on, our page just kind of skyrocketed.
Got it. What was it like when Stuart Maines showed up?
Stuart, I give him a lot of credit. He is very much the visionary. He manages our team really well. And so I'm kind of like, my personality is very like type B. Like you can tell from like my, posting while biking, I am not like a super big perfectionist. Like I just kind of go with the flow, but Stuart keeps me on track. And he really believed that the page could become much bigger than it was. And so he brought a lot more structure once he came in, and we've gotten to where we are
Ye-
now.
Okay. What can you, when you say where you are now, like what kind of traffic? How are you measuring it? Like, can you give us an idea of what kind of view count you're getting on your social media pages?
Yeah, like taking a quick look right now, it says in the past month we've had a 1.6 million views on our profile.
Wow.
So we have a lot of people viewing our videos. We have, lots of videos on our page, over 1 million views. And I would say we have more than like 200 people every Sunday in our 9 different regions in Boston that are coming to church for the first time because of what they saw online.
Okay. And it's not just college students, not just teenagers.
No, I feel like we have more people in the pros that come through Instagram. But yeah, I should have written this statistic down, but I think they just said yesterday that we've had 132 baptisms so far from people that originally came on Instagram that we know of.
That is so exciting. I mean, that just gets my blood pumping when I hear that. It's like, wow, that's exciting. That's exciting.
Mm.
Okay, when people show up and they found church through, the online or the posting or whatever, can you spot them at church? Can you, I mean, is there like a little tell that tells you, okay, that person is here from social media?
Oh yeah, nowadays I go to church and there's so many faces I never seen before, I don't recognize, and so it's just chaotic. We're all just trying to do our best to set up studies, meet as many people as possible. But that's kind of why I say my main passion is in ministry. Like social media still kind of feels like I'm sending a message into the void, and
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
somehow people end up coming to church. But what I love most is doing the Bible studies, growing my ministry, and the posting videos on the side is what kind of gets me there.
That's so cool.
Um,
It's
so
still just a tool. It's not the end all be all. That's fantastic. So you've got your focus on straight. What's your average day look like? I mean, I just kind of imagine you like stuck behind 57 screens and just, with the wires and cords and everything. Are you living in downtown Boston? Are you living in the suburbs? Like what do you do?
I live in Brighton, which is not in the heart of Boston, but still in the city. Most days you'll find me on my electric scooter scooting around the city. Um, so yeah, I basically just do like regular campus ministry. I usually leave my apartment around like 9:30. Go to campus straight away, share my faith, have Bible studies, Bible talk, and most days I get home around like 10 p.m. And so I'm out all day. Um, my my diet consists of dining hall food and whatever I eat on the go. And somewhere in that day, I find 20 minutes of free time to post on Instagram for that day.
Oh, okay. So
And yeah,
it's an unstructured day. Basically, you're just out and about.
yeah, whatever studies I have that day, I go where the Bible studies are. And that's my favorite thing. And then somewhere in that, I bust out my laptop or my phone and make my post for the day.
That's great. Which are you working on a particular campus or multiple campuses?
Yeah, so my boyfriend and I lead at Boston College and all the colleges of the Fenway. So there are a bunch of smaller universities near Fenway Park. Um, and we also have some stragglers in like some smaller colleges too. So we end up, yeah, I think we have maybe like 7 or 8 schools that we're overseeing, but Boston College is the biggest one, and all the other ones are a little bit smaller.
God, what a cool area near Fenway. That's exciting. Okay, so you
Mhm.
mentioned a boyfriend. I was kind of wondering how I was going to ease my way into that. What's his name and how are things going? How'd you guys meet?
Yeah, his name is Austin. We've been dating for 2.5 years, and it's been super fun. And we've started leading together in September, and that's been really great. So yeah, it's been great.
Okay, so dating a couple years. What was it that you go, "Oh, I like this guy." What about him that you go, "Oh, I think he's pretty cool."
Mm. I just think we were just really great friends. Um, and it wasn't, I wasn't like, oh, he like has to go into the ministry. He's younger than me. But it just so happened that he is really kingdom minded. And I think that's kind of what made us get along too, and what I liked about him. Um, but first and foremost, I think we were just really great friends.
Hmm, that's awesome. That's great. So you guys both enjoyed doing the ministry and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I felt that same way with about Pam. Like it really felt. I remember talking to her and said, I feel like we're looking out the same window, just at kind of the same view of the world.
Mm,
That really made a big difference. You know,
yeah.
you seemed kind of like a reluctant convert initially when you became a Christian. You kind of became a Christian late, and then you became a Christian. There's not a lot of, you know, reinforcement coming from outside from other kids, but you've really gotten really passionate now. Like what's
Mhm.
driving you? Where's that coming from? I mean, a lot of people, would just go to Boston University, get a high-powered job, move on, and then show up at church, but they're not like into it like you are.
Mm.
Where's that drive coming? Where's the passion for the mission for Jesus coming from?
I think a lot of it, I have to credit my parents. Like my dad just loves ministry. Like even though he hasn't worked full time in the ministry in decades, um, even when he had a full time job, he was leading, house churches or leading church in China. And so I think I grew up with just those values of, oh, God is first. We love the kingdom. Um, And like even now, like my dad, when we catch up, he's asking me about my Bible studies, like telling me about how he does the repentance study or whatever it is. So yeah, I'm really grateful that I think growing up in the church, some people can come out with a little bit of baggage or like, even like being in the teen ministry or something can come with drama or whatever. Like, I think I was really protected by God from all the extra stuff, being in a, mission minded, house church. Like, it was just, I was surrounded by disciples that just wanted to change the world from a young age, I think. And so even when I got to college, my parents were not asking me how I was doing in my classes. They're asking about the ministry and, how many Bible studies are you in? Like, that's what they were always excited about. And so I think that's been instilled in me from a very young age. And then just getting in my first studies in college, like just being in awe of how the Bible was really changing people, I was just completely hooked. And I felt like this is what I want to spend all my time doing, is just opening up the scriptures with people and just seeing God change their hearts in front of my very eyes.
That's so cool. I guess so many good memories of working with your parents. They were, region leaders in the church. We led the international. Your parents led a section. Takeshi Manami led a section. Other people. Lots and lots of great lifetime memories. It's kind of a very special time. So your dad went to Waseda, one of the top schools, top private college there in Japan. Super smart. Both your parents just super gifted people. So it's just great to hear that they're doing so well. What do you find most interesting about the work you're doing?
I think it's really interesting to like grow up with the people I'm leading, like with campus. Like the college students these days are very different from how I was in college, even though it's only been a few years. Just the different needs that they have, the different ways that they view the world. Um, that's a fun part, but also, yeah, a really interesting part of my job is, not changing what the scriptures say, but catering to what this generation needs. There's a lot of, heartbreak in this generation. Like the girls I study with these days have gone through really, really traumatic and hard life things, but seeing how the scriptures still work for them, but kind of like strategizing, like what scriptures to share. Like that's just fun for me. Like thinking of, okay, what scripture is gonna help them in this, in this stage of life. And I don't know, it's just like fun for me to see how the Bible works for everybody. I don't know if that makes sense, but
When you talk about the difference between
Mhm.
your time period in college and those who are currently going through school, like, give me an example of a difference.
Yeah, this is kind of like, it's heavy, but I think the college kids these days just know how to talk about, or it's less taboo to talk about a lot of things for them now, which I think is great. But I would say like maybe 1 in 5 women I study the Bible with have experienced some sort of sexual assault or, abuse, um, or even, yeah, some really deep mental health challenges. Um, and I don't think it's because, you know, there are more cases of that now. I think people are just more comfortable speaking about it now, but that's a big difference that I've seen in campus ministry now.
What, what do you find frustrating about the work that you're doing? Like, you're there in Boston. What's challenging for you?
Oh, the challenge has always been that my life revolves around the decision making of like 18-year-olds in campus ministry. So, and how, I can't control people's decision making. So I'm kind of just like, please, like, why don't you just see that this is the best way, like, why can't you just make Jesus Lord? So that can be frustrating for me, just seeing like how God can really fix, God is the one that can fulfill, every part of people's lives, but seeing people not choose him is very frustrating.
Hmm. What's working in reaching this generation of college students? What advice would you give to those who are working on campus across the country or around the world? What's helping? What's making a difference in connecting and converting?
Honestly, what's working has always been what's always worked is just sharing our faith, getting people in one-on-one Bible studies, just helping people fall in love with Jesus. That's just always been the thing that's worked. But now, because our ministry has grown so much, I think it it just speaks for itself. Like, I think when people come to Bible Talk or Devo, they just see these young people that just love God. And I think that's made it, it's a well-oiled machine now, because the evidence speaks for itself. Just going into a room full of college students that love God, are wanting to help other people love God. It's really inspiring to be part of the campus ministry right now.
That's awesome. What are your plans for the future? You're 27, 26, right? 20, okay,
Mm-hmm.
26, almost 27. Okay. Do you feel a little bit old on campus now? I mean, you feel like an old timer? Or-
I actually don't. This is like my favorite age gap that I've had so
okay.
far with the college students. Feeling like I can be their big sister, but also I still, it's very beneficial being Asian because everybody still thinks I'm 18. So,
I know it. That's so
but
true.
I would love to keep working with campus for now. I've been really enjoying doing it with Austin. He is really good at it. Um, and yeah, keep doing what I'm doing with social media also. I love being in Boston too, but I'm kind of open to whatever. Like I've said, I'm kind of a very go with the flow person, so I'm not one with like a 5-year plan or anything like that.
Do you see yourself returning to Asia?
Um, that's I'm not sure. I think, that can be kind of a loaded question. I would love to go back to Japan at some point because that's where my family is. But I'm really grateful right now, just feeling very supported by the Boston church and very believed in. That's very hard to let go of right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. Getting back to the technical side of things, what advice would you give for a small church to develop their
Mm-hmm.
online presence? Give me some bullet points, okay? Like for those listening, like, wow, that's really working great. How do you get started?
Mm-hmm.
What should I do?
The first step is to just start posting. I think people can overthink what their posts look like, how it measures up to other churches, but I think the repetition is what really gets things going. And also, my in the most simple way, like my job is just thinking that my church is awesome and wanting people to see how awesome it is. Like if I'm going into church going, wow, like who wouldn't want to be part of this? I'm like taking videos of things that I see. I'm like, wow, this church is amazing. And that's kind of my attitude with posting, is going, if only people in the world saw how awesome this is, like they would want a piece of it too.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just encourage small churches to have the same kind of confidence of like, okay, what are the strengths of my church? If it's a smaller church, maybe it's the family atmosphere that they have. I would just really encourage the smaller church to not compare themselves to, a bigger church with, more resources or whatever. I think if they're thinking, oh, our church is amazing, just start recording and posting so that other people can see it and want to be a part of it too.
It's impressive what's happened there in a relatively short period of time, and it's really, really inspiring to me because we are seeing the difference. I mean, the last several baptisms we've had are from people who found our church online, and
Hmm.
that's been encouraging and surprising to me. It's like, wow, okay, this really does work, and it's exciting.
So given that of like just showing off your church, I guess the more bullet point things would be show real faces, like real people in your church, instead of just posting like event flyers or something.
Right.
I think get more personable. Um, just take photos and videos of real disciples smiling, like living life to the full. And that's the best way to start, in my
So
opinion.
live action stuff as opposed to like going to Canva and coming up with some invitation card style
Yes,
posts.
exactly. I think people really value authenticity, and it's really an advantage that we have today that somebody could never, walk into the doors of our church, but they can already see what our church is like online. And so, um, yeah, so just trying to give the most authentic experience of what church would be like with us online, um, could make somebody come out even if, and they know exactly what our church is like before they even walk through the doors because they've already seen, real faces and, what church is like.
Are you doing things to like improve your skills, or is it just simply just doing it over and over again? Like, are you taking classes? Are you watching YouTube videos? Like, do you work on your craft, or is this something that's just totally intuitive?
I I try to spend a few minutes a day looking at what's trending on Instagram, looking at maybe what other big content creators or other churches are doing so that I'm aware of what's working, what, tends to generate views and likes.
Okay. What advice would you give to a person who wants to make this life count?
Hmm. I would just advise to keep it simple. Like, I think just to see, always be in touch with how God has changed your life and to share that and want others to experience the same thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, just continuing to talk about how God has changed our life and how he can do that for others too. And there's nothing that beats multiplying disciples and bringing more people to heaven with you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really all that you can bring to heaven. So that's the thing that matters most at the end of the day.
That's awesome. I love your focus. Mari, thank you so much for your time. It's been great talking to you. I've got some pictures of you and Anne and James and George and Josh and Marissa. And as a kid, I sent it over to you, and it's just a total blast from the past. I mean, just kids were so cute there in the late 90s, early 2000s, and such great memories. So it's great to see how you've allowed God to just work in your life and you're following him with power. That's really, really exciting to me. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me. I'm a very loyal listener of the Rob Skinner podcast.
Thank you so much.
An honor.
Thanks for listening. Here's how you can help support the program. First, let your friends know about the podcast. Secondly, read and review one of my books, either How to Plant and Grow a Church or Courage, How to Make This Life Count. You can find both of them on Amazon.com. Or you can support the program with a gift today. The link is in the show notes because my goal is to inspire you to make this life count, live a no regrets life, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Have a great day and make this life count.